Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. Sitting next to me, across from me, 2 hours up North 95 from me, Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. If you're just tuning in for the first time, welcome. Promise you will have a lot of fun with us, hopefully along the way, and maybe even learn something. If you are a frequent listener, follower, viewer, we appreciate all the support. Thanks again for tuning in. Today's guest, which we're going to interview here in a second, has an absolute great topic that I think is extremely relevant right now, especially when it's challenging to find properties. I think that's one challenge that a lot of real estate investors are having at the moment is there's a lack of inventory. It's hard to find good deals. I mean, I hate to tell you, but the days of just going on the multiple list are kind of over. It's kind of hard to find good bargain basement properties right there. So Faisal, who we're going to introduce to you in a second, will hopefully help you find some off-market leads. He has a proprietary software that he's created, and we're going to kind of run through that with him, talk about his background, and talk a little bit about how that works to get hopefully some good off-market deals.
Yeah, and it's it's the first day after Halloween, and it's getting a little cold out, but hopefully, the market can stay hot for everyone going into the end of the year. As you guys know, here's our 2-second pitch. We do this because we like talking to people that are real, not gurus, not people that are trying to sell anything, people that are real, people local to us that we know. I've spent time at conferences with Faisal, drank some few beers, so he's definitely a good guest to have on because that's who we look to talk to, real people doing real things. So excited for today's show. A lot of people always ask, how do you get started? And I think this is one of the key components to that. So enough with us. If you guys like it, share, if you get any value, please like it, share it. That's the best compliment that you can give us. And more importantly, let's bring Faisal in.
Faisal, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing excellent. Thanks. Why don't we just start off maybe a quick background about yourself and maybe how you got into the industry of real estate investing?
Yeah, sure. So I was a data analyst for 6 years. Realized I didn't want to do it the rest of my career, so I started learning about real estate investing. And I attempted to flip my first place back in 2018. It was a slight disaster, which should have taken me 6 months. Took me 14 months, and I lost like $10,000. Never really looked back. Took a little break. Then when we found out that we were pregnant with my first son, decided to start looking into buying rentals. Bought what would have been my first one at the beginning of COVID. Ended up going over budget on it. And so I had to sell it, and I made like 50 grand on it. 2 months later, I lost my job, which was the best thing that's ever happened to me. So I decided to go all in on real estate investing. I figured it was just as risky to work for myself as someone else. So my wife was freaking out, but I laid out the game plan and, just told her to give me 6 months to try to make it work. And, I think I spent like $20,000 or $30,000 on my data and systems, setting up a wholesaling business. And after a couple months, just realizing that there had to be a better way. So I went down the rabbit hole of trying to find better data providers with the eventual goal of selling that data. And I found a couple in the summer of 21 that I started using my business, and my business blew up. So from there, I wanted to see if the proof of concept was there, if other investors could get deals with my data. So I started selling that data to other friends of mine, my masterminds. And once they were able to get deals from it, that's when I started PinPoint.
So intuitively, did you kind of just know, maybe from your background or wherever, it's like, hey, I want to be in real estate investing to begin with. And I know the data and the software kind of as a service came later, but was it one of those things where you're like, I need to have a competitive edge over everybody else. And I recognize, like, I need to go direct to sellers. I can't rely on real estate agent. I can't rely on other wholesalers. Like, I need to, I need to go figure out how to get the data myself. Like, did that kind of just intuitively come to you as like, this is the only way to do it?
I mean, I wish I could like toot my own horn and like say that, I was, trying to start this like on purpose, but it was kind of by accident. So like I was pulling data from like PropStream, Bash, and ListSource, and every other investor that I knew was doing the same thing. And so basically what pushed me over the edge was I pulled a list of vacants for Baltimore County. which you guys are familiar with, and it said I think it was like 3,000 vacants, but I knew that it was something wrong there because I knew there weren't that many vacants. And so when I went down the rabbit hole, and like people were actually telling me like properties weren't vacant. So when I went down the hole finding better data, it was only ended up being a couple hundred. And so I knew, okay, like, there's an opportunity here to add more value to other investors, and provide them better data, for cheaper. But yeah, I mean, I think direct to seller is always the best way to go when you're talking about getting deals, just because, I don't know, referrals and like sphere of influence and like MLS, like that stuff's great and all, but it's not predictable and it's not scalable. So I feel like when you're going direct to seller, like, the best way to go is actually direct seller, so you can find those underlying pain points and actually get a deeper discount on the property.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. What's funny is when we were in the single family world, we would spend a lot of time, mining data. Everyone knows the most popular list is probates, right? Because there's the most motivation, one would assume. When you started looking into the data points, you brought it up of like, hey, like I knew there wasn't 3,000 vacants in Baltimore County, and then I found out the data was bad. Like, you're a data and this is a little nerdy here, but like, I know you're a data analyst. Like, how do you even begin to like go and uncover that next layer to be like, yo, I have the best quality data and like sourcing. I mean, presumably you're a reseller of someone else's aggregation of data, but then I guess the question is, how do you vet these people and how are they so good at doing their job to bring forward the best data so we can succeed as real estate investors?
Yeah, so you're right. Like, there's only a few like big data providers out there, and I wanted to differentiate myself by looking at different data points. So like, basically, because I didn't want myself and my clients to call someone and be like, "You're the 10th person that's called me today." So basically, I source like the data from like these big providers, and then look at data points that other providers aren't looking at. So, for example, I have a list that I came up with called potential absentees. It's people who own more than one property but don't have forwarding addresses on them. So they look owner occupied, and then we scrub it against the absentee list. So people who are targeting absentees aren't targeting these people. It's typically like your accidental investor, like someone who lived in a house, moved to their next place, and held on to the previous one as rentals. And a lot of times these people aren't sophisticated investors. So like they have one bad, issue with the tenant and they want out. So, that was just one of the lists that I've come up with. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all kind of going after the same deals. I just wanted to make it so that, I'm not trying to fish in the same pond as everyone else.
Have you expanded your sales outside of the Baltimore regional network? Like, obviously, I guess your thought process is like, hey, if I can prove concept where I can actually go out and drive this data and be like, all right, well, I know these are valid. This is my market I operate in. Have you been able to expand that outside of our marketplace?
Yeah, so the data itself is nationwide, and whenever I try a new list, I test it here first to make sure that it actually works, and then release it to my clients nationwide. As far as like if I've been able to do deals outside of here, I did some in Tampa for a little bit. It was a great market. I had boots on the ground. The guy was a great salesman, great at dispo. So we were extremely successful in a short period of time. But he just went on his own, so I stopped marketing down there. And I pretty much just focus on Maryland just because I like to cherry pick all my deals, and essentially I like having eyes on my properties and my projects.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Ian.
No, I was going to say that makes sense. I was going to completely change topics because I want to get to the juicy stuff. But go ahead.
Go ahead. Get to the juicy stuff.
No, I mean, it's not. I mean, look, it's not that juicy, but like, we kind of glazed over, and this is how my brain thinks. And sorry for our listeners, but I'm like a space cadet. But it's like, dude, so you got forced to quit your job. This is what I was thinking about. You get forced to quit your job, and we can talk about where you're sitting today. You kind of mentioned like, hey, I'm not the best landlord in the world, but you exposed a point where you're like, shit, I got to go out on my own. I'm going to go try real estate. But then you ultimately came back to what you did for a living. You're now doing on your own. Like, you want to talk about that at all? Because like, I think a lot of people are like, I just want to get away from my W-2, but then they don't realize the skill sets that they've learned and earned to then apply to business in the future,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat. I was fired. I had been promoted into a position that I wasn't really qualified for, and honestly, I couldn't hang. So they let me go. And there was I don't know, some like fear and like shame, I guess, at the beginning that I got fired from my job. I didn't tell like anyone that I knew that I actually got fired. I kind of just told them that I got, you know, initially I told them laid off and then let go, and eventually I was comfortable enough in my own skin to say that I got fired. But yeah, I think to be able to apply what I was doing, in real estate made it so I was able to see this opportunity. And because I'm very like value driven, I was like, well, here's an opportunity for me to make money, but also like add value to other investors because, I feel like data is so key that, because everyone is pulling essentially the same list, like, how can I make it so other people are doing something different and making more money?
No doubt. And also, like, I think a big takeaway that, I don't think is kind of spoken on the surface, but something I picked up on is it's important to understand inside real estate. Real estate's broad. Real estate investing is a little bit more niche, but there's so many different, subsectors, sub niches inside real estate investing, right? You got to figure out, who you are, what you like, and what you want to do, right? So in essence, you took real estate investing and you did it the way you see fit by aggregating data, creating creating a software for other real estate investors. We hear the word, "Hey, I'm a real estate investor." What does that mean? A lot of people, it's like, oh, I buy rental properties or I fix and flip properties. Like there's dozens, if not hundreds of different subsets and niches in that. And I think that's important for a lot of folks to understand and to realize, like, figure out what you want to do. Like you even said, and I agree with you, I hated being a landlord and we sold all of our rental properties over the last few years as well, because that's just not something that we like to do. I like lending. I feel like I'm good at lending. It works out great for our skill sets. You've taken, providing data, and that's your real estate investing niche, right? And that's not to say that you can't overlap and do other real estate things, but I think too many people are kind of stuck on like, I want to be a real estate investor. And it's like, okay, we'll figure out what part of it you want to be in. And, what can what skill sets complement your own being? Because again, like if you don't do what you don't like, you're not going to do it, right? You're not going to continue to do it. Like if literally I had to be a full-time landlord or a full-time flipper of houses, I would be out of real estate because I hate it personally.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
you could be something that you're as well. So I think that's something to, to think through. So is PinPoint, is that like a self-service platform where folks, real estate investors or whoever is looking for that data can go on and kind of create their own lists or get their own data aggregated for them? Or is it something that they do consultations with you and figure out what they're looking for and then you create that for them?
So they can go on the website directly, pinpointskip.com, and choose the list type, the county, city, or zip code. Unfortunately, we can't go as granular as neighborhood, but zip code is as granular as you can get. And then from there, choose how many records they want, and then we'll get the list back to them in about an hour or two, depending on how busy we are. And then the cool thing about the website is when you go to order the next list, you upload the list you already purchased, and then we'll scrub out all those records, even if they're on different lists. However, I like hopping on consultation calls with my clients, just to see where they're at in their journey, how I can actually like provide a good service for them. Because a lot of clients, if they've never pulled data before, if they've never done marketing, this is all new to them. And so I don't want them to just buy a list and throw their money away. I want to make sure that they're actually targeting the properties that they actually want to go after, because it looks different from if you're a realtor to like if you're a flipper or a landlord. So like that's why I try to like steer people down like the right path, even though essentially you can pull the same list no matter what. It's just I just want to make sure that like they're not just throwing their money away.
Are you limited to residential, or can you pull commercial lists?
I can pull commercial lists too. So I don't know why, but decent commercial data is hard to find. And so I've tried, I think like I'm on my 8th different commercial data provider now, and I finally found a good one. There aren't any underlying pain points that I can pull there, like if they're if they're in pre-foreclosure or anything like that. I can't do that, but I can pull based on like the property type, and like if you're doing multifamily, like we can do it by the number of units, and if you're doing like self-storage, we can do it by like square feet.
Yeah, I would think that maybe years of ownership, knowing people's debt's about to expire, or lack of debt, sets up for a really good position, or very limited debt would be a great position to be in for owner finance type deals. Just spitballing here. Here we are, live mastermind on the podcast. But
no, and I agree with you. But so what I found is sometimes if like the date, let's say the date of sale is missing, if someone like owned a property like 40 years ago and like that data point is missing, if you filter it on like 10 plus years of ownership, it'll automatically filter out that record because it's a null, so they have no idea like what it is. So a lot of times what I tell my clients to do is filter the list after you already purchased it, and then that way you're not missing out on like potential deals.
Got it. So in like your workflow process, like let's just say I wanted to buy a residential list for Baltimore City, and I say, hey, I want people that had a code violation. I don't know. It seems like an easy one. Am I buying the list direct from the vendor or my vendor of choice, or am I buying that through you and then you're helping me scrub that list? What does that look like?
You're buying through me. I can't get code. I can, but like code violations, you have to just email us directly. But yeah, like let's say like tired landlords or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, you would buy from me. And what I do is I source the data through the data provider, and then we skip trace it in house, and then I'll shoot it over to you.
Nice. Have you looked at like doing? I don't know how far in the process you go with it, because obviously you got your own wholesaling business, right? Like that's like your main thesis behind it. And I guess let's ask you about that. So you pull these tired landlord lists. Like, what's your marketing look side by side with that? Are you just smacking them all with mail? You doing the mass text, cold calls, website? Like what are we doing to get these guys over the hump? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I did try texting for a little bit last year. From May to December, we didn't get a single deal, but then in January we got it's like a 13 property portfolio that more than made up for it. But essentially, we were texting 600 texts a day through launch control, and then I had clients who were texting 3,000 to 5,000 texts a day, and so it was like, okay, that's who my competition is. So we turned off texting. Now we're just cold calling. I have 2 cold callers in Costa Rica that funnel leads to my CRM. I use Podio, and then I have follow-up specialists in Egypt that does all my following up for me. I did have a follow-up specialist in Nicaragua that did all my following up. But crazy story, he moved from Nicaragua to Mexico to be closer to like friends and family. And 2 weeks after he moved there, he got kidnapped by the cartel. And so ended up he got released because it was like a case of mistaken identity, and then ended up seeking asylum in America. Took him a year to finally get asylum, and I hired him when he made it over here, but he was just too expensive, and I had to fire him after 2 months. But yeah, he was a beast. But what I find with the Costa Ricans and Egyptians is their accents. People tend to think that they're immigrants, rather than like Philippines and like Pakistan Indians. Like people know that they're calling from a cold calling center. So like that's where I find like the biggest, I guess, disparity, because like I've tried I think like 7 different cold callers, and this company is basically, I built my whole business around them.
Yeah, it's interesting. So nice. You're not doing any cold mail then. You're literally only doing calls is the best way to track down leads. You're skipping around mail. You're not wasting your time at all.
Yeah, correct. And it's mainly just a cost thing. The only time we text people is if they've ghosted us.
Yeah, I mean, mail's really expensive now compared to where it used to be when I started in real estate investing. I mean, it's almost twice the price.
And it's hard. It's horrible. You don't even know if it gets there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have clients that do it, and they basically say they have a half % response rate.
Wow.
Whereas I think when I started, I think I did it like back in like 2018, and I was getting closer to like 2%.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if it's like new kid on the block, because we did the same thing. It was like mail. Oh, this is fucking great. Granted, it was like 2014, and it's like mail died.
Yeah.
Like, well, I think people get tired of seeing your dumbass face. It's like,
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends. It depends on what your back end looks like, because that's what it all comes back to. Back around is front loading cash to down the road a few months later when a deal pays to get it. And then obviously, I mean, I know some of the big TV advertisers, wholesalers that we all know. I mean, they still do direct mail at some level, and they send a ton of pieces out. But I don't know. I don't know the economics behind that side of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between like typically smaller operations and those big guys is the follow up. So like my clients that are most successful are the ones that are like following up with people every like 2 to 3 weeks and like even monthly, whereas the ones who aren't successful aren't really keeping up on the follow up. And so, like a lot of our deals are coming from 6 months down the road. And it's literally we're hitting them all the time until they tell us to F off. And then we'll call them back.
Our best money has always been follow-up leads. Always. The biggest and best wholesale deals in general, follow-up. $5 million apartment building, follow-up.
Yeah.
One of the biggest wholesale leads ever, follow-up, 6 figures. You know what I mean? So I would tend to agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think like one of the biggest takeaways so far, if someone's listening or tuning in, is the word follow-up, because we can all attest to that. I mean, I've done deals for real estate investors and folks on the lending side that have been on my email database, have followed us for years, and it's just staying in front of them over and over and over and over till it's ready. And so many folks, coming from, internet marketing backgrounds and things like that, so many folks do not understand the importance of follow-up, right? Like somebody walks into your store and they're not ready to buy today and they leave, right? Like, do you even have their contact information? Like, what are you doing to get them back into your store? What are you getting that to do to make money on them? You spent money to get them into your store. You spent money to get in touch with them. Like, it's all follow-up. Most people are not ready, especially if they're cold leads. They're not going to be ready, right? They need to do more research and due diligence on you. But yeah, that's a different conversation. But
yeah, I mean, it's all about
agree.
timing.
Yeah, I agree. What else is what do you think we kind of left out related to PinPoint and because some of the services that that you guys offer related data that you think would be helpful for people to know?
Yeah, I mean, whether someone is new, and just trying to get their first deal, whether their experience and trying to get their 100th, the processes are all the same. You pull the data, you market it to them, and you just follow up, and it's not that hard. A lot of people tend to overcomplicate it, and it doesn't matter what your niche is. You have to make sure that you're marketing to people in order to get these off-market leads.
Yeah, and actually one comment backing up from what I meant to say earlier is everybody tries to do a marketing technique. It's like, oh, it didn't work. Oh, it didn't work. It didn't work. It's like you did it once. You didn't do it over and over and over and over and over, right? Oh, the numbers don't work. Like that's everybody's little baby excuse.
Yeah. I mean, I have clients that give up after a month. It just makes no sense to me.
I mean, I remember early on, like literally everything, bandit signs, it all worked. Like everything worked. I mean, and to give people frame of reference, like we're sitting here talking to you and people are probably going, holy shit, like this thing is going to cost me hundreds or thousands of dollars to get started. I mean, if I'm reading your website correctly, someone can get in the game for $80 and then go use their damn cell phone and you are the cold caller. Go call these people, right? Like, is that realistic? Like someone could get in for under $100 and have a list and start working leads?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like at the beginning, you have more time than money, right? So like you're the one that's going to have to do all the dirty work, essentially. Like nobody likes cold calling, but if you don't have the money to invest in cold callers, like you're going to have to be the one to do it yourself. Cold call, right. Handwrite the letters. Like you can, our average cost of acquisition is like $2,500 to $3,500. But like I have clients that like literally will just get a Google Voice number and just call the heck out of people until they actually get a deal. And it's just all about adding value, like don't overcomplicate it. Just figure out how you can help people, what their pain points are and how you can solve it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right. And I think a lot of people lose track of where they stand in their business. A lot of people want to get in the business and be like, I need all these systems. And it's like, no, you don't. You need to go fucking work. Like just go do it. And guess what? As you do more work, people start to want to be with you and they're going to want to see what you're doing, and then they're going to want to help you and then move that along. And plus, could you even imagine trying to hire a cold caller day one and not even know like what a script is, what to say, how to do any of that? Like I couldn't even imagine it, because half the time I don't even know what to say. And I'm sure cold callers are better for me. But then in the same sense, it's like, I don't even know what kind of direction I want to take it in. I don't know my buy box. I don't know the metrics. I got to go see, feel, learn this business and go do it. So for under $100, you can literally get into business today and bang on the phones. If you don't know what to do, you can find me. You can find Faisal. You can find Jason. You can find anyone else that follows this show. We're all relatively easy to get a hold of and say, hey, I got this deal. I don't know what to do with it. And we might partner with you or might sell it. I have a friend of mine, Dean, out in California, and he calls his thing friends with benefits. Hey, if you don't know what to do with a lead, come find me, and we're going to go do – he calls it friends with benefits, and he shares in deals to get them done. So I think that's something that a lot of people get afraid of, and they want everything in place before they're willing to go do it. Now, if you do get to the level of like, this is one topic we've never really talked about on the show, I don't think. What makes a good cold caller when you're hiring someone? Because like, there's a lot of conversations around, just go hire cold calling companies, go hire this. Like, when you're looking at cold callers, like, what does that look like for you? What kind of traits are you looking for? Do you give them the script, or they already have a scripting? They using your CRM? What's all that look like?
Yeah, so I use a cold calling company. People can reach out to me and ask me for it. I don't want to like put it out there because I don't know if they're listening to it in 6 months. I might change it. I'm always trying new things. But this one has done well by me. What people look for, for one, I think how bad their accents are and how good their English is, and if they actually specialize in real estate investing. Because there's cold calling companies that also do like solar and like collections and stuff like that. So like the one that I use, they have 2,500 cold callers, and all they do is for real estate investors. So I think just their experience and just do some research and find out if other investors are using them. So the whole reason I started using this company was because it was a referral from another investor.
And for the most part, not to go on a tangent on just them, but like, and they set up scripting based on what they know works. You didn't have to do any of that stuff. Yeah, that's helpful.
Exactly. And then I tell my clients to download Podio. You can get it for free, and download the Seller Leads app within Podio. If you can't figure it out, they'll set it up for you. But you can just YouTube it and literally start off for free. And then after 100 leads, it's like $25 a month or something like that. So somebody even with like a bartending or waiting job can do this during the day.
Or if you're under 18 and you're still living in parents' house, you can go get this data, right? Like there's so many ways, I'm going to speak to my brother because I know he's going to watch this at some point. He keeps saying, hey, I want to get involved. I'm like, dude, I don't know where to insert you. Like, you got to go do it. Like, here it is, man. Like, this is it. Like, this is so simple. You can go get a list, and you're going to help vet them a list, and you could be in business tomorrow. Like, it's that crazy.
I literally have clients who are just graduated from college. They didn't want to go into their field that they majored in, and all they did was they didn't pay for any coaching. They just YouTubed it, and their first deal was $20,000. And it took them like 5 or 6 months worth of work, but it was free education.
Yep. Have you mined any data for like anything outside of real estate, businesses, private investors, stuff like that? Have you looked into that at all?
Yeah, so I had a provider that provided business data, and I had a client who was looking to buy a plumbing company, and I pulled that information for him. And then I had another client who basically was running a social media marketing company and wanted to like pull all the local like small businesses. That information is, I don't know, it wasn't as great, honestly. Like I would charge them for like 1,000 records, but like sometimes they would give you like 10 point of contacts within the same business. Like, wasn't really a fan of that. But if people want it, I can get it for them.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So, obviously, you built this out of necessity, mostly for yourself, to create yourself to be successful. It's turned into a business, which is really awesome. I think people should look at monetizing what they're good at, and how can you provide value to other people. That's awesome, man. Like, what what does PinPoint look like, 5 years from now? What's the growth opportunity for you on that side? How do you see that? Is it going to turn into Jesus, I keep thinking Podio, but like a prop stream, something like that, or you want to keep it boutique? And what does that look like for you? You think?
Probably a combination of the two. Like I want to still be able to like add value to investors, so trying to keep our costs low. But as you grow, obviously costs increase. So I'm probably going to go down the software route to try to make it like a one-stop shop. But at the same time, I like testing everything within my own business first, so my clients aren't getting garbage. So I'm not really too sure. I know we're growing at a pace that I didn't expect, honestly. It's just started as a side hustle to make a couple $100 extra a month, and now I see the value that I'm able to create with other investors, and the potential value in this business. 5-10 years down the road, if I'm able to exit from it.
Yeah, man, that's great. And like we started with, there's no better time or relevant topic than right now with a lot of real estate investors, because again, the days of just going on MLS to finding a deal is over. Right. There's a few, times in the market where you can go find some, value add properties there, but not often. And a lot of real estate investors, especially newer ones, like I think they're okay doing the heavy lifting. They just don't necessarily know how to, and they're not sure, a good way to do this. So I think, that's, a great contact, reach out. Reach out to Faisal. It's a good way to do it. Why don't we end with, typically we ask our guests a good book or podcast that they've recently read or recommend, or something that's either helped in business, marketing, growth, anything like that you'd want to share with the group.
Sure. Before I say that, I want to give a testimonial to my company. So my wife and I have been looking for a house pretty much since COVID. We were priced out of the market. And we just had a second kid in December. And so we're like, okay, like we need to figure out our next step. So I pulled lists to start marketing it to areas that we wanted to live in. Couldn't find anything. Everyone was still asking for too much money. But I had a client of mine who ended up getting a deal in an area that we wanted. And so we're buying that house, and he's a realtor. So I gave him the listing on our house, and we're actually going to move in at the end of the year. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah, but regards to books, starting off, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Obviously it's pretty much every real estate investor's Bible. And then Think and Grow Rich is a good one as well, obviously. And then I've been big into Alex Hormozi's books, $100 million offers and $100 million leads.
Yep.
And I read $100 million leads, and I'm rereading through it again, just because there's so much you can apply, not just in real estate but also in my personal business too. So I don't know, it's such a great resource that I think you pick something up each time, and when you're reading through a book, your mindset's kind of different. So you just think of different things. So
dude, you said Rich Dad, Poor Dad's the Bible that every real estate investor needs to read. Hormozi's books are going to be the Bible, and most of his content here going forward. I'd say probably 10 years from now, we'll all laugh about it because it's I remember when that shit came out, but that will literally be the shit he's dropping is just,
dude,
just stupid, dude. It's just stupid.
Dude's a genius, and he knows everything about every fucking topic, literally every topic.
And had we known he was a fucking Baltimore boy, we should have kept him right there and not let him leave,
seriously.
Could have put it on the map. God damn, dude. It's all good. Where's the best place people can find you? Actually, Jason, I don't know if you have it. You can share the screen. Where's the best place people can get a hold of you? You want them to go through your website, or you on social presence? What's the best place to get you?
Yeah, so pinpointskip.com is the website. You can find me on Instagram at pinpoint_skip, and then at Faisal, it's FAISAL.MORSI, and then Facebook as well.
Hell yeah, man. No, we appreciate it. And, guys, this is, again, we bring in these type of topics because this is what makes you successful. And you're like, oh, everybody knows how to do real estate. Well, yeah, everybody does know how to do real estate. But these are the competitive advantages that are going to be created by learning how to mine the best data, how to be the best operator, how to raise the best capital, is going to advance you past the other people. And if you can figure out how to do that, that's the secret sauce. We all know, right? You're in a mastermind. So you've obviously shared with all these mastermind guys, hey, this is what I do. Everybody buys your data, and they can all buy the same data, and everybody's going to leave with a different deal with different profit margins because everybody has a different way of doing it. And I think that's what makes these shows interesting. And I'm glad that you came on, and I appreciate you. And congratulations on selling off your rental. So enjoy that money. And you can start growing hair back. I'm a couple of years, I'll sell some stuff off.
I'm a lost cause at this point, man.
Yeah, buddy. So, all right, man. We appreciate you. Good luck today, and look forward to seeing where your company goes. PinPoint Skip, and appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.